Chapter 1. The night they threw us out the storm came like a verdict. Rain hammered the highway, turning taillights into bleeding suns. Mina held Junie in the crook of her arm, and the canvas duffel with the other as they stumbled through the shadow of pines. The motel's neon sign a sputtering promise behind them. She had no plan, only a numb, humming need to get farther from that house, from the man who had wanted a son and didn't want the daughter she'd given him. "You okay, baby?" Mina whispered. Junie, 6 and still too small for the world's violence, burrowed her face into Mina's jacket. Her breath smelled like toothpaste and fear. "We'll be okay, I promise." The lie felt thin and bitter. They had been on the road 20 minutes when headlights had popped out of the rain and a voice had shouted. And then the man Junie's father had forced them out into the dark like trash. The motel manager had watched with his thumbs in his pockets. Mina had watched Junie sleep through the argument in the passenger seat, jaw clenched, and when the man walked back inside without them, he had slammed the door in such a way that some part of Mina's chest felt like it had been hammered into splinters. Now the forest swallowed the motel's light. The road behind them unspooled into nothing but wet black. Thunder rolled so close it felt like the world was folding. Mina's boots slipped in the mud. The duffel sagged with wet clothes and the paper bag of the few things she'd had the courage to grab. Her phone was dead. Every sensible voice inside her said to turn around, go back, sleep in the passenger seat until morning. Every animal part of her newly sharpened by survival said move. A shape moved at the edge of the trees, long and low. For a heartbeat Mina thought it was a fallen log until yellow eyes split the dark. Not human. The thing stepped into the rain and became a wolf, enormous and black as midnight, soaked and shaking like a dog who had been dragged through a storm. It didn't run. It didn't lunge. It simply watched, head tilted, as if cataloguing them. Junie stirred and, childlike, laughed. "Oh, wolf!" She reached one small hand toward the animal, voice pure and unafraid. Mina's heart leapt into her throat halfway between terror and a curious aching hope she had not known she still had room for. The wolf took one step forward. Mina stepped between it and Junie, a human shield by reflex. "Back," she said, voice thinner than she meant. Back. Her knuckles were white on the duffel strap. The wolf exhaled steam in the cold air, and the sound, not a growl but a low, warning rumble, wrapped inside Mina like an answer. It padded around them, slow and precise, and settled 3 paces away, eyes never leaving Mina's face. For reasons she could not name, the immediate frightening instinct to run evaporated. A steadier feeling, an odd, electric calm took its place. It hummed at the base of her skull and threaded down her spine. "What is it?" Mina whispered to herself. The rational part of her blamed hysteria, migraine, the sleepless terror of being homeless. But the wolf's gaze felt intense, recognizing even. "Mom?" Junie peeked around Mina's leg. "He's pretty." The wolf's ears swiveled. It cocked its head, studied Junie, and then, with a single graceful motion, stepped closer. Mina's breath came too fast. The forest smelled of wet earth and pine resin and the metallic tang of lightning. Somewhere high above them the moon, pale and swollen, hid itself behind thunderclouds. But minute by minute the night felt keyed to a rhythm Mina did not understand. "Stay close," Mina murmured. The wolf did not. Instead, it mosed the hem of Mina's jacket as if approvingly, then lifted its head and fixed its gaze on her like it had been looking for her in a crowd for a very long time. The feeling flared again, a hot, ridiculous, intimate, and Mina staggered, as if someone had set a hand at the small of her back. A voice cracked through the rain then, low and threaded with something like gravel and honey. "You shouldn't be out here." Mina spun around. There, under the sodden boughs, stood a man whose presence folded the air like velvet. He was soaked down to the bone. His jacket clung to him. He was big, broad-shouldered in a way that made her forget the cold for a second, and his face strangely familiar in a way she couldn't place had a scar that cut the edge of his jaw. The wolf at his side dropped a fraction in size, becoming just an animal again. Yet she knew the animal belonged to him in a way that the world could not begin to explain. "Who are you?" Mina asked before she could stop herself. The words trembled. She had no right to demand anything from a man who had every reason to let them be. He looked at Junie with something soft that made Mina's chest twitch. "You should be inside," he said. "There's shelter at the ranger's cabin down the trail. Come, you can't sleep in a car with a storm like this." There it was, the offer, simple and direct, like a rope thrown across a canyon. She could refuse and keep walking into the unknown, or she could follow this stranger and a wolf to a place of warmth she didn't deserve. Mina's instincts barked, "Do not trust men, not after the night before." But Junie shivered against her and lifted her chin toward the man, as if making the decision for them both. "Why would you help us?" Mina asked, and the question surprised even her. Its tremor was equal parts defense and plea. The man studied her as if weighing the truth of her tone. Rain carved black streaks down his face. "Because the woods don't like children left out in the rain," he said finally. "And because you both look like you could use sleep." When he said it, something in Mina unclenched. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the quiet command in his voice that said he could protect her if he chose to. Maybe it was the wolf's eyes, reflecting hers like a mirror showing a version of herself that could be brave. Junie tugged at the hem of Mina's jacket. "Can we go, Mama?" Mina looked at the little girl, at the stubborn set of her jaw, at the way she had learned the world faster than she should have and made the smallest, fiercest choice she had made in months. "Yes," she breathed. They followed the man into the trees. The wolf slipped between them like a shadow guarding the path. Lightning splintered the sky and the world went white. For a second Mina felt the storm like a physical thing passing over them, and she clung to two facts: her daughter's hand in hers and the stranger who had appeared like an answer to prayer no sane God had offered. As they approached the ranger's cabin, a thought strange and inexplicable bickered at the back of Mina's mind. The man moved with a constrained, animal grace that seemed inhuman. And in the space between heartbeats, Mina touched the idea of destiny, ridiculous, obvious, terrifying. The wolf padded ahead, then looked back as if to say, "This is where I leave you." He met her at the threshold, water dripping off his hair into a small puddle on the wooden floor. Up close, his eyes were not yellow like the wolf's, they were something darker, older. He held the door open and offered nothing but a steady, dangerous promise. "Inside," he said. "We can dry you. Tell me your name." Mina hesitated, then felt Junie squeeze her fingers. "Mina Hart," she said. The man inclined his head, a shadow of something like recognition crossing his face. "Mina, I'm Callan." He glanced toward the little girl and then into Mina's eyes again. And in that look was a question the storm had asked and the forest had answered. "How far will you go to protect what you love?" Mina swallowed, tightening her grip on the duffel. She had no map, no family to call, no promises left. Nothing but a small girl who trusted her and a stranger whose wolf had chosen to watch over them. Outside, the storm kept talking in thunder. Inside, the cabin smelled like cedar and wood smoke and the faint, strange musk of something wild. The world had become a place of movement and choices. Mina stepped over the threshold, and the wolf at Callan's side lifted its head and howled once long, low, and full of invitation. The sound crawled under Mina's skin and settled somewhere deep, like a key turning. It was the sound of everything changing. Chapter 2. The scent of secrets, the door shut behind them with a soft thud that felt strangely final. Warmth enveloped Mina instantly. The cabin radiated heat from a stone fireplace where amber flames licked at split logs. The air smelled of cedar, damp wool, and something else, an earthy spice that clung to Callan's skin and the wolf's fur. It curled into Mina's senses, unsettling and almost familiar, though she couldn't place why. Junie released her hand and wandered toward the fire, arms stretched out like a tiny sunflower reaching for dawn. "It's warm," she breathed. Callan moved past Mina, shrugging off his soaked jacket. The motion was fluid, powerful too graceful for someone that large. It was the kind of grace Mina associated with dancers or predators. Or the wolf sitting silently by the door. "Sit," Callan said gently, nodding toward the small sofa beside the hearth. "You're shivering." Mina hadn't noticed how violently until he mentioned it. Her body trembled from cold, shock, and the deep ache of the last 12 hours finally catching up. She sat down slowly, clutching her duffel to her chest like armor. Callan crouched near Junie, not touching her, just close enough to share warmth. "What's your name, little one?" "Juniper," she said proudly. "But Mummy calls me Junie." "Juniper," he repeated, letting the name roll in his mouth like it meant something older than the girl herself. His eyes flicked briefly to Mina. A good name, strong. Mina swallowed. Praise for Junie always hit her softest places. "Thank you," she murmured. Callan rose to his full height, towering, almost too tall for the low cabin ceiling, and crossed to the tiny kitchen nook. He moved with deliberate quiet, as if not to startle either of them. "Tea?" he asked. "Yes, please," Mina said, before Junie could declare her preference of hot chocolate for the 100th time. The wolf padded over, curling beside the sofa. Mina stiffened, but the animal only lowered its massive head onto its paws, breathing slow and steady. Its fur steamed faintly in the warmth. Somehow, the sound of its exhale eased her, grounding her in the present moment instead of the storm still raging outside. "Is he yours?" Mina asked quietly. Callan paused with the kettle in his hand. "He's part of my family." An odd answer. Not a pet. Not wild either. Something between. Something bonded. "Does he have a name?" Callan's gaze shifted to the wolf, and something like amusement creased his expression. "Rowan." Junie perked up. "Hi, Rowan." The wolf rotated one ear toward her, acknowledging, respectful. Mina exhaled shakily. It was surreal being in a stranger's cabin with a child and a wolf and a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a storm with secrets in his pockets. She should have been terrified, but exhaustion dulled everything sharp inside her. Callan set a mug before her. Steam spiraled upward, carrying chamomile and mint. She wrapped her hands around it gratefully. "You're safe here," Callan said, voice low. Too low. As if he meant it in ways she couldn't understand. Mina lifted her gaze. His eyes caught the firelight and glimmered with something luminous. Something not entirely human. She blinked, startled. When she looked again, they were just eyes. Dark. Intense. Tired. "What brought you out here tonight?" he asked softly. She stiffened. The truth hung in her throat like a shard of glass. The storm outside growled, vibrating the window panes. Mina stared into her tea until the steam blurred her vision. "My husband," she began, voice thin. "He." The words knotted. Callan didn't move, didn't interrupt. He waited with the stillness of a man accustomed to silence being a kind of therapy. "He wanted a son," Mina said finally. "I gave him a daughter. And tonight he decided that meant we didn't belong in his life anymore." Junie didn't look up. She hummed softly to Rowan, tracing patterns on the wolf's fur with her fingertip. Callan's jaw tightened. A muscle feathered beneath his cheek. It was the first flash of anger Mina had seen from him, not toward her, but on her behalf. "He put you both out," Callan said, voice dark. In a storm. It's not the first time he's wanted space, Mina whispered. Just the first time he locked the doors behind us. Silence pulsed. You didn't deserve that, Callan said finally. No one had said that to her. Not even herself. I don't even know where we're going, she said with a hollow laugh. I just kept driving. And then the car died. And then the storm. But you already know that part. Callan stepped closer, not crowding her, but enough that the heat of him reached her like a second fire. You don't need a destination tonight. Just rest. The cabin is safe. Mina's chest tightened. Why are you being kind to us? You don't know us. His eyes lifted to hers, and there it was again. That strange, electric awareness pulsed between them, the same as in the rain when he first appeared. Callan seemed to feel it too because he inhaled sharply, turned slightly toward the fire. Sometimes, he said slowly, you meet people you're not meant to walk past. Her heart stuttered. That was not an answer. And yet it was. Junie yawned loudly. Callan's expression softened as he glanced at her. There's a spare bed. She can take it. And me? Mina asked quietly. You'll take the bed too, he said. I'll sleep by the door. The wolf woofed in protest as if judging him. Callan smirked faintly. Yes, Rowan, I know. You'll keep watch where I can't. Mina stared at the two of them and Wolf, speaking in ways that didn't require words. It was uncanny. It stirred a memory of the old folklore her grandmother used to whisper. Wolves who wore human skin when the moon slept. No. Impossible. Callan noticed her watching. He stepped back as if easing her fear. I won't let anyone hurt you, he said. The promise hummed through the walls, through her bones. Mina wanted to believe him. Needed to. Junie curled up on the sofa, eyelids drooping. Rowan nudged her gently, keeping her from sliding off. Mina's throat tightened with a painful rush of gratitude. I'll wash and dry your things, Callan said, gathering the damp jackets. Get some sleep. You both look like you haven't rested in days.
We haven't,
Mina admitted. He paused in the doorway to the small laundry nook. Then tonight is the first step. Those words lingered even after he disappeared behind the wall. Mina's eyes followed him, drawn, uneasy, grateful, afraid of the way her stomach fluttered when he spoke, as if her soul recognized him in a way her mind could not. The storm softened outside, but inside the cabin a different kind of storm was only beginning. Junie finally drifted to sleep. Rowan lay beside her like a guardian spirit. Mina watched Callan return, sleeves rolled up, hair damp but now pushed back from his face. His presence filled the room like gravity. She whispered, Callan, why were you out in the storm? He met her gaze and, for a heartbeat, the wildness in him flickered unmistakably. His answer came low, almost reverent. I was looking for someone. A pause. For you. Mina's breath caught fear and fate tangling inside her. Before she could speak, thunder cracked, shaking the cabin. Rowan shot to his feet, growling at the door. Callan stiffened, posture sharp as a blade. Something or someone was out there. Watching. Hunting. Callan's voice dropped to a growl far too deep to be human. Stay back, Mina. And suddenly she knew this man was not merely a stranger. He was something far more dangerous. And far more destined. Nascosto. Chapter 3. The howl beneath his skin, the growl that rose from Rowan was low enough to vibrate the floorboards. His fur bristled, spine arching, eyes fixed on the front door as if it might burst open any second. Mina's pulse leapt into her throat. Callan stepped between her and the door with the quiet efficiency of someone trained to protect. Not a flinch, not a hesitation, just pure instinct. His shoulders squared, and for a split heartbeat, his silhouette seemed larger. Too large, Callan, Mina whispered. He didn't look back. Stay behind me. Something thudded against the porch, soft, deliberate. Footsteps. A body? Mina couldn't tell over the crash of her own heartbeat. Lightning flashed, turning the windows into white sheets of terror. In that strobe of light, Mina saw a shadow move across the porch, massive, upright, and wrong in ways that made her lungs seize. Not human. Not fully. Rowan snapped his jaws, a warning sharper than any word. The wolf positioned himself just beside Callan, rigid and ready. Is it a bear? Mina asked, desperate for a rational explanation. Callan inhaled deeply, slow and deliberate. His eyelids fluttered, as if tasting the air with some sense he did not possess. No, he said. Not a bear. Mina's skin prickled. His voice, usually smooth, low, controlled, had deepened, roughened. Like another voice lay beneath it, scraping to break free. Junie stirred on the sofa. Mina rushed to her, pulling the girl into her arms before she could wake and see the monster outside. Junie mumbled, curling into Mina's chest without opening her eyes. Callan's head lifted sharply, sensing something outside just before the sound came. A long, bone-deep howl that rippled through the storm and stabbed into Mina's spine. Rowan answered with a snarl so fierce the walls trembled. Get in the bedroom. Callan murmured, not a request, but an instinctive command. Now. Mina wanted to protest, ask 100 questions, demand the truth he was clearly hiding, but Junie whimpered, and that decided everything. Mina clutched her daughter and backed toward the small hallway. Callan, she whispered urgently. Please, come with us. He finally looked over his shoulder, and the sight made her breath vanish. His eyes glowed. Not metaphorically, not a trick of firelight. They glowed with an amber-gold luminescence that pulsed like molten metal. For one fractured second, she saw something beneath his skin, like a beast pacing behind bars of bone and sinew. Mina, go, he said, voice rough. I won't let anything touch you. The wind howled again, but Mina wasn't sure if it was the storm or something stalking them in the night. She backed into the bedroom and pushed the door halfway shut, leaving just enough space to see Callan. Rowan stood beside him, growling so deeply the window glass tremored. Another thud outside. Callan's hands curled, fingers flexing against the urge to shift. She didn't know how she knew that, but she felt it as surely as breath. Something primal inside her recognized the war happening inside him. Callan, Mina whispered again, heart shaking. What are you? He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because outside, something slammed into the porch post hard enough to crack wood. Callan snapped. His bones didn't break, they rearranged. His back rippled, shoulder blades sharpening beneath his skin. His breath left him in a ragged snarl, and for the first time Mina understood the truth she had been circling since she met him. Callan wasn't just a man with a wolf. He was one. Mina, keep the door closed, he gritted out. Half human, half beast. And don't under any circumstances come out. Fear should have paralyzed her. Instead, something hot and electric shot through her veins, adrenaline and something stranger, like recognition. Be careful, she whispered. His glowing eyes flicked toward her, an unspoken promise in their molten depths. Then the door exploded inward. The creature that burst through wasn't a wolf, not fully. Taller than a man, shoulders chained in muscle, fur black and matted, jaws too wide for any earthly animal. It let out a roar that shook dust from the rafters. Mina screamed, slamming the bedroom door just as Rowan leapt at the intruder. The sounds that followed were a nightmare symphony, snarling, ripping, the crash of bodies against furniture. Junie woke, sobbing into Mina's shirt. Mama, what's happening? Shhhhh, Mina whispered, voice trembling. It's just a storm. Lee's tasted metallic on her tongue. Callan's voice, if it could still be called that, roared in the main room, deep and feral. The walls shook. Something heavy hit the kitchen table. The window shattered. Mina fell to her knees, pulling Junie into the corner, shielding her with her body. Tears burned her eyes. Please don't let him die. She didn't know why the thought hurt so much. She barely knew him. And yet another deafening crash. Silence. Then a wet, guttural growl that didn't belong to Rowan. Mina's heart stopped. The doorknob twisted. No, Mina whispered, pressing Junie tighter. Please no. The door creaked open. Callan filled the doorway, but not the Callan she knew. He was changed. Not fully shifted, but caught somewhere between man and Wolfie's blazing gold, jawline sharper, canines lengthened, veins dark against his skin. His breath came in ragged snarls, chest heaving. Blood, some of it his, some not, dripped down his arm. Rowan, limping but alive, brushed against his leg protectively. Mina couldn't breathe. Junie whispered, Mammy ... Is he a monster? Callan's eyes snapped to the Chilan. Suddenly they softened, the gold paling. His voice, when it came, was broken glass and velvet. No, he murmured. But I understand why you'd think so. He stepped into the room, not fully, giving them space. His body shook with the strain of holding his form. Mina, he said gently, painfully. I didn't want you to find out like this. She stared at Heimat, the man who had saved her, the wolf who had watched her, the creature who had fought to protect her from something even worse. What are you? She whispered. A shifter, he said. Alpha of this territory. Her knees threatened to give out. He held up a trembling hand, not closer, just visible. I'm still me, Mina. I swear it. But the next words broke her open. And you and your daughter are now under my protection. Silence pressed thick around them, alive with stormlight and fate. Mina clutched Junie, heart pounding, eyes locked with Callan's half-wolf gaze. She wasn't sure if she was more terrified or more drawn to him. Chapter 4. The weight of his name, the storm had weakened. But inside the cabin, the air still crackled with something heavier than thunder truth. Raw and unavoidable. Callan leaned against the doorway, breath unsteady, muscles trembling under the strain of holding himself halfway between human and beast. He looked like a man sculpted from moonlight and nightmares, beautiful and terrifying in the same breath. Mina held Junie tightly, heart hammering against her ribs. A shifter. An alpha. Not myth. Not rumor. Not folklore whispered by old women. Real. And standing injured in her doorway. Callan exhaled shakily, forcing his shoulders to loosen. The glow in his eyes dimmed until only faint rings of gold remained. His voice returned in Tatasauce, rough, yet undeniably his. You're safe now, he said. Mina wanted to believe that. Needed to. But her pulse refused to slow. What was that thing? She whispered. Callan wiped blood from his jaw with a hand that was almost a claw. A rogue. A wolf who's lost himself to the shift. Lost himself? Mina's voice pitched despite her effort to keep calm. You mean, he used to be human? Callan nodded once. Junie whimpered softly. Rowan nudged her hand, as if reassuring her that not all monsters came with claws. Mina steadied her breathing. Are there more of them? Callan hesitated, and that hesitation was its own terrible answer. The forest has been different these past weeks, he said. Rogues moving where they shouldn't. Someone is driving them out of their territory. His jaw flexed. Someone powerful. Mina felt the floor tilt beneath her. She had walked into a world she wasn't ready for, one filled with wars she didn't understand. Why were they after us? she whispered. Callan's gaze snapped to her sharp. Urgent. They weren't. They were after me. The words hit her like a blast of cold air. You? Mina's breath shook. Why? Because I'm what they want to destroy, he said quietly. An alpha. The last barrier between them and this land. Land. Territory. Packs. Rogues. And him a man wrapped in secrets deeper than the forest. Mina's throat tightened. Then we shouldn't be here. Junie, my daughter, she shouldn't be near this. But Callan stepped forward slowly, gently, like approaching a frightened doe. His half-shifted features softened, the beast beneath his skin retreating by sheer will. No, he said. You're safest here. With me. Why? Mina demanded. You don't even know us. Rowan growled softly, not at her, but at the fear in her voice. Callan's eyes flicked to Junie, then back to Mina. I know enough. That's not an answer, she snapped. His expression twisted in conflict, jaw tightening. I can't explain everything tonight. Not like this. But understand one thing, when I saw you on that road, Mina. He swallowed, looking away as if the confession pained him. Something in me recognized you. Before I even knew your name. Her breath hitched. Not love. Not fate. Something older. Something instinctive. Junie, still trembling, whispered into Mina's shirt. Mama, Dot, is he a bad guy? Callan froze. His eyes no longer golden, but deeply, painfully human, lifted to the child. No, little one, he said softly. I would rather tear out my own heart than hurt you or your mother. The sincerity in his voice cracked something in Mina's chest. She loosened her grip on Junie and rose on unsteady legs. Callan watched her, wary not of her, but of scaring her. He was a man trying to seem smaller than he was, folding his shoulders inward, lowering his gaze. Mina stepped closer. Sit down, she said quietly. You're hurt. Callan blinked, surprised. It's nothing. You're bleeding, she countered. Rowan huffed, as if agreeing. Callan finally sank onto the edge of the bed near the door, muscles trembling with fatigue. He looked exhausted, bone deep, soul deep exhausted. Mina grabbed the first aid kit near the dresser and knelt in front of him before she could talk herself out of it. Up close, he felt enormous, dangerous, magnetic. Heat radiated from him like a furnace. The cut along his arm was deep, still oozing. Mina swallowed and dabbed it gently with gauze. Callan inhaled sharply. Sorry, she murmured. No, he rasped. It's fine. But the way he said it wasn't the pain of the wound. It was the pain of proximity. Mina felt it too, a tug, a spark, a thrum beneath her ribcage, like a second heartbeat awakening. What did you mean earlier? She asked quietly. That you were looking for someone? Callan's gaze flicked to hers, and for a moment the world felt impossibly still. I meant exactly what it sounded like, he said. Something in the woods told me to walk that night. Told me I'd find someone who needed me. His breath shuddered. Someone I was meant to protect. You don't even know who I am, Mina whispered. I know enough, he repeated softly. The tension between them stretched, delicate as a spider's thread. Mina forced her eyes away, focusing on bandaging his arm. Her hands trembled. You shouldn't get involved with us, she whispered. You're fighting your own battles. You don't need ours. I want them, he said immediately. Her heart lurched. Why? He hesitated only one breath. Because the moment I saw you, Mina Hart, I felt something I haven't felt in years. What? She breathed. Purpose. Mina froze. Callan seemed to realize the weight of the word, and his expression gentled. Not ownership, he added. Not claim. Just a pull, like fate shifted when you stepped into my path. Fate. The word clung to the air. Mina couldn't bring herself to look at him. I don't believe in fate. Neither did I, Callan murmured, until tonight. A long silence settled between them. Rowan curled at Junie's feet, guarding her as she drifted back into half-sleep. The storm outside had quieted into rain. Mina tied the last piece of bandage. There, she whispered. Finished. Callan looked down at the neat wrap, then at her hands still hovering over him. Thank you. Their fingers brushed. A spark shot through her. Callan stiffened, breath catching. Mina pulled back as if burned. I should check the windows, she said abruptly. Mina. His voice stopped her mid-step. She turned slowly. His eyes were no longer glowing, no longer wolfish, just unbearably, devastatingly sincere. I won't shift again tonight, he promised. And I won't come near you unless you ask. He exhaled softly. You're safe to sleep. She nodded faintly, throat tight. Callan rose to check the broken door, Rowan shadowing him. His movements were pained but purposeful. Mina gathered Junie in her arms and lay beside her on the bed, staring at the ceiling long after Callan settled with his back to the door, keeping watch, guarding them. And for the first time in months, Mina felt a strange, fragile sense of safety. But beneath it, deeper and darker, was something else. A pull. A connection. A destiny awakening like a heartbeat beneath the earth. She didn't believe in fate. But fate, it seemed, believed in her. Chapter 5. Morning in the woods of an alpha. Mina woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the tense stillness that follows disaster when the world waits to see what will collapse next. Junie was curled against her side, breathing softly. The early light filtered through the cabin windows in thin grey ribbons. For the first time in a long while, Mina had slept. Truly slept. No nightmares. No shouting. No footsteps outside her bedroom door. No judgment waiting on the other side of morning. Only the faint scent of pine smoke. And safety. Her eyes drifted to the front of the cabin where Callan still sat, back against the doorframe, long legs stretched out in front of him. As if he hadn't moved all night. Rowan lay at his side like a dark shadow, ears flicking at every stray whisper of wind. Callan's head dipped once, twice, fighting sleep. Exhaustion etched every line of his posture. He's kept watch the whole night. The realization hit hard, twisting something deep inside her that she didn't want to name. Mina shifted quietly, trying not to wake Junie, but her movement was enough. Callan's eyes snapped open. Gold flickered beneath the brown for half a second, instinct, awareness before he blinked it away. You're awake, he said softly. His voice was rough with fatigue, but steady. Grounding. Mina sat up slowly. Did you sleep at all? A little. It was a lie. A gentle one, but a lie nonetheless. Callan, you can't stay awake every night like this. His eyes held hers for a beat too long. I don't mind. She swallowed. But I do. Something softened in his expression, dangerously soft, like a wall lowering a fraction too much. Rowan nudged Callan's hand, as if reminding him he wasn't alone. Or, perhaps, urging him to be honest. Callan pushed himself to his feet, wincing slightly as his healing wound pulled. I need to check the perimeter. Rogues don't usually travel alone. Mina stiffened. You think another one might come? Not immediately, he said. But I won't risk it. He grabbed his jacket, now dry, and slung it over his shoulders. The cabin seemed to shrink around him, his presence too large, too wild to be contained. Before he left, he paused. Stay inside. Don't open the door unless you hear my voice. Mina nodded, though her chest tightened. Be careful. Callan's gaze flicked to her hand resting protectively over Junie. A strange heat passed through his eyes, worry, resolve, something more primal, and then he slipped outside with Rowan trotting at his heel. The door clicked shut. The cabin suddenly felt colder. Junie woke not long after, stretching like a kitten. Mama, where's the wolf? Outside with Callan, Mina said, smoothing her hair. They're checking the woods. Is he still a good guy? Junie asked, eyes wide. Mina hesitated. Callan's half-shifted form returned to her in flashes. Glowing eyes, fangs catching firelight, blood on his skin, and yet, beneath it all, the man who had shielded them, fought for them, watched over them all night. Yes, she whispered. He is. Junie smiled sleepily. I like him. The simplicity of childhood struck Mina unexpectedly. She envied it. As she stirred a pot of boiling water for tea, she found herself glancing at the door every few minutes, searching for movement, listening for the crunch of Callan's boots. The minutes stretched. And stretched. Too long. When the doorknob finally turned, Mina nearly dropped the mug. Callan stepped in, Rowan brushing past him. His shoulders were wet with dew, pine needles clung to his sleeves. But his expression hard. Controlled. Angry. Something had happened. What is it? Mina asked immediately. Callan studied her, struggling with the weight of whatever he carried. Tracks. Deep ones. Bigger than the rogue from last night. Her stomach sank. Are we in danger? Not right now, he said, but tension coiled thick in his tone. But someone or something is pushing rogues out of their boundaries. And they're moving toward my land. Your land. He said it like it wasn't just territory, but a living thing he belonged to. Callan rubbed a hand over his jaw. I need to alert my pack. Mina's pulse quickened. Pack? There are more like you? Not exactly like me, he said. But yes. Wolves who can shift. Most can control it. Rogues can't. And what about the thing chasing them? The force? Callan met her eyes. That's what worries me. Whatever it is, it's organized. His voice hardened. Rogues don't coordinate. Not unless they're being led. Mina felt ice pour into her veins. By who? Callan hesitated. There are old enemies. Ones who shouldn't be close. Ones who... He stopped. His jaw clenched. Why are they here? Mina pressed. Rowan growled low, sensing Callan's unrest. Callan exhaled sharply. Because someone wants to dethrone me. Mina froze. What does that mean? In shifter law, Callan said slowly, an alpha holds land as long as he can protect it. If another rises stronger, ruthless they can challenge. Kill. Take everything. She felt the ground shift under her. You mean, she whispered, someone wants to kill you. Callan didn't flinch. Yes. The air thickened. And now, Callan added, voice deepening, you and Junie have become leverage. If they think you matter to me. Mina's breath stuttered. We don't. I mean, we barely know each other. You don't owe us anything. Callan stepped closer, expression tightening. You think I'd have fought a rogue for someone who didn't matter? Her heartbeat spiked. He wasn't lying. Not with his eyes. Not with his voice. Mina, he said softly, you were on that road for a reason. I was out there for a reason. Whether you believe in fate or not. She looked away, chest constricting. It's too much, she whispered. Too fast, too dangerous. I know, Callan said gently. I won't force anything. You can stay until the storm passes and the road's clear. After that, you choose your path. Something in his tone broke her. He meant it. He'd let her go even if it killed him to do it. Before she could answer, a distant howl echoed through the trees. Callan went still. "That isn't a rogue," he whispered. Rowan's ears flattened. Mina felt Junie slip behind her. "What is it?" she breathed. Callan's eyes flashed gold. "A scout," he growled. "From the pack." Relief loosened Mina's chest until Callan added, voice grim, "And, if they're here this early, something has gone very, very wrong." Chapter 6. Wolves who wear human faces. The howl rolled through the forest like a wave, low, commanding, threaded with urgency. Callan's entire posture changed. His spine straightened. His shoulders tightened. A different kind of authority settled over him, heavier and sharper than anything Mina had seen yet. Rowan moved toward the door, tail stiff with alertness. Mina swallowed. "Callan, what does that mean? A scout? It means the pack isn't far behind," he said. "They wouldn't send a scout unless they needed eyes ahead. Something pushed them to move fast. Pushed them?" Mina echoed. "Like the rogues?" Callan didn't answer. His eyes were on the tree line, listening, calculating. When the second howl came closer now, he drew a breath like a man bracing for impact. "I have to meet them," he said. "If they think I'm under attack, they'll storm the cabin." Mina's pulse jumped. "Wait, are we safe here? Should we hide?" "No," Callan murmured. "This is my territory. They won't cross the threshold unless I allow it." Mina wasn't sure whether the reassurance comforted or frightened her more. Junie tugged on Mina's shirt. "Will there be more wolves?" Callan crouched to meet her gaze, gentle, despite the tension bristling under his skin. "Yes, little one. But these wolves are mine." Junie nodded solemnly, as though filing the information alongside fairy tales and bedtime stories. Callan rose, running a hand through his hair. "Stay inside until I say otherwise." Mina nodded, though anxiety twisted her stomach. "Callan?" He paused at the door. "Be careful." His eyes softened for a heartbeat, gold warming into brown. "Always." Then he stepped outside, Rowan at his heel, disappearing into the mist that clung to the forest floor. Mina stood frozen in the doorway until the sound of voices drifted through the trees, not words she could decipher, but tones, growls, strange rhythmic sounds like a conversation tinged with animal cadence. Junie pressed her face to the window. "Mama, there they are." Mina joined her. Shapes emerged between the pines, first dark silhouettes, then solid figures. 3 men stepped into view, though men didn't feel like the right word. They were tall, broad, and moved with the same predatory grace Callan possessed. One had pale hair cut short, another wore a braid down his back, and the third huge, scarred. Intimidating, carried himself like he wanted the entire forest to know he belonged to it. All 3 radiated power. All 3 looked like they could shift at any moment if provoked. Callan stood before them, posture rigid, voice low as he spoke with the scarred one. Rowan prowled around the group, sniffing the ground where the rogue had been dragged away. Mina watched Callan's face change, hardening, softening, hardening again. Whatever they were discussing, it wasn't good. The scarred wolfman pointed toward the cabin. Callan stiffened, stepping between him and the front door. Mina's heart slammed against her ribs. "They're talking about us." After several long minutes, Callan broke away and headed back toward the cabin. The others followed at a respectful distance, but their eyes, sharp and wolf-bright, studied the home like they could smell the humans inside. Mina backed up as the door opened. "They want to see you," Callan said. Mina's throat tightened. "Is that necessary?" "Yes," Callan said, voice gentler now. "They need to know you're under my protection. Otherwise, they'll assume you're intruders." Intruders. In his land. His pack's land. Mina looked down at Junie. The little girl was nervous but curious, fearless in ways that made Mina ache. "All right," Mina whispered. "Let's meet them." Callan extended a hand, hesitant, like he wasn't sure she'd take it. Mina didn't. Not because she didn't want to, but because she wasn't ready to cross that line. Still, Callan offered a brief nod, as if respecting the boundary. "Stay close." They stepped outside. The forest felt bigger with the pack watching. Wilder. Callan motioned them forward. "This is Mina Hart," he announced, alpha command threading his tone. "And her daughter, Juniper." The scarred man sniffed the air, not subtly, not politely. His nostrils flared and his eyes narrowed. Mina instinctively stepped in front of Junie. Callan growled softly a warning. The man's lips twitched upward. "Protective, aren't we, Alpha?" Callan's shoulders tensed. "Reed, enough." Reed, clearly the most dominant of the three, tilted his head, assessing Mina with unsettling curiosity. "Human," he murmured. Callan stepped closer to Mina, his presence a barrier. "Yes. And under my guard." Reed's eyes sharpened. "Since when does an alpha take in strays?" Mina winced, heat rising in her cheeks. Junie clutched her hand tighter. Callan's restraint thinned like a tearing thread. "Watch your words." The pale-haired man raised both hands in surrender. "Reed, don't start. You see the scent here, fear, trauma. She's not a threat." Reed sniffed again, expression shifting in a way Mina couldn't read. "Not a threat," he agreed slowly. "But something else." He looked at Mina the way a wolf studies a puzzle, cautious, intrigued, uncertain. "What do you mean?" she asked, voice trembling despite her efforts. Reed opened his mouth, but Callan cut him off with a sharp, commanding growl that vibrated through the soil. "Enough." The sound was almost inhuman. Mina's pulse leapt. The third man, older, quieter, finally spoke. "Alpha, the rogue trail leads north. Toward the boundary." Callan's jaw clenched. "The boundary?" "As in yes," the man said. "Toward the old packlands." A ripple of tension passed through all four shifters. Mina glanced between them. "What does that mean?" Callan turned toward her, expression shadowed. "It means someone is moving into territory they were exiled from. Territory belonging to a shifter who ... no longer leads." "Who?" Mina asked. Callan hesitated. Reed answered instead. "Your Alpha's brother." Mina's breath halted. Callan looked away, jaw tight. A brother. A rival. A threat chasing him through the forest. Before Mina could process any of it, Reed stepped forward, nostrils flaring again. "Strange," he murmured. "There's something on her scent." Callan snapped around. "Reed, she smells like you." The words dropped like stones. Silence cracked open. Mina's heart lurched. What does that mean?" Reed shrugged, careless. "Probably nothing. Or maybe fate is having fun with our dear Alpha." Callan's expression was a storm panic, anger, something dangerously close to fear. Mina stepped back. "Callan?" He shook his head sharply. "Ignore him." But Reed laughed a low, mowing rumble. "You can't hide it forever. Not from her. Not from yourself." Callan turned on him, voice dropping to a deep snarl. "Enough." Reed subsided, though amusement danced in his eyes. The pale-haired shifter cleared his throat. "Alpha, orders." Callan exhaled shakily. "Patrol the perimeter. No one approaches the cabin without my command." The pack dispersed, but Red paused, giving Mina one last measured look. "Be careful, human," he murmured. "Destiny bites harder than wolves." Then he vanished into the trees. Mina stood trembling, the world tilting under her feet. Callan approached slowly. Don't listen to him. Callan, Mina whispered, why would I smell like you? His eyes closed for a moment, pain flickering across his features. Mina, he said softly, because sometimes the bond chooses before we do. Her breath caught. Bond? She echoed. What bond? Callan met her gaze haunted, afraid, unwilling. The mate bond, he whispered. The world went silent. And everything changed. Chapter 7, a bond neither asked for the word mate, cracked through Mina's world like lightning splitting a tree. She stood frozen, every breath shallow, every heartbeat too loud. Callan looked equally torn-jaw tight, shoulders stiff, eyes avoiding hers, as if terrified of what he'd see there. Callan, Mina whispered. Tell me what he meant. Callan ran a hand through his hair-an unsteady, ragged gesture that said more than any explanation. It doesn't matter, he said quietly. Reed shouldn't have said what he did. That's not an answer. Mina stepped forward, pulse racing. What bond was he talking about? Why would I smell like you? He flinched, as if the words hurt. Junie tugged on Mina's sleeve, confused but sensing the tension. Mama? Why is everyone upset? Mina stroked her daughter's hair. It's okay, sweetie. Go inside, please. I'll be right there. Junie hesitated, but obeyed, slipping into the cabin with Rowan following protectively. Mina turned back to Callan. Talk to me. He held her gaze for a fractured second, then looked away again, pain etched into every line of his face. Mina, this isn't something humans are supposed to be dragged into. You've been through enough without the weight of our world crushing you too. That's not your choice, she snapped, surprising herself. If something is happening to me, you deserve to know. Callan's chest rose and fell once, sharply. All right, he said hoarsely. But remember, you asked. He stepped closer, but kept his hands at his sides, as if afraid to get too near. In my world, he said softly, wolves have fated mates, a soul match, a bond older than pack law itself. Mina swallowed. Like destiny? His voice dropped deeper. A connection the wolf recognizes instantly even if the person doesn't. But I'm human, she whispered. You said it yourself, this shouldn't happen. It shouldn't, Callan admitted. Not like this. Not so soon. Not without warning. Mina blinked at him. Then, how do you know it's real? He hesitated. Because it feels like my chest is tearing open every time you're afraid. Because I can't sleep without listening for your breath. Because last night, when that rogue came in... His voice cracked. I thought I'd die if he touched you. Her heart stuttered. That's not just instinct, he continued quietly. That's the bond choosing. Mina's legs felt weak. She stepped backward until her spine met the cabin wall. No, she whispered. This can't be happening. I didn't choose this. I didn't ask for any of this. Callan's expression twisted in guilt. I know. I just left a man who thought he owned me, she said, voice trembling. I can't, Callan. I can't belong to anyone ever again. Callan's head snapped up, eyes fierce. You don't belong to me. Then, what is this bond? She demanded. What does it want? He drew a shaky breath. It wants connection. Partnership. Two souls moving as one. That sounds like ownership, Mina said bitterly. No, he murmured. It's the opposite. A mate bond never forces. It only mirrors what the heart decides. He looked away. But I know how it feels from the outside. And I won't let you feel trapped. Not by me. Not by fate. Not by anything. His sincerity stung almost more than the fear. Then break it, she whispered, desperate. If it's real, break it. A shadow crossed Callan's face. Mina, and Alpha can't break a bond alone. She stiffened. Then what are you saying? I'm saying you're safe, he said, voice rough with restraint. I won't pressure you. I won't claim anything. You can walk away from this cabin the moment the road's clear and never see me again. Her stomach twisted at the thought, and she hated that it did. Callan. He shook his head. No. You don't owe me words. You don't owe me anything. Silence hovered between them, fragile as ice, hot as wildfire. Finally, Callan exhaled, forcing himself back into the role of Alpha. We need to focus on the danger, he said. My brother is moving into these woods. If he senses a human tied to me, the bond, Mina whispered. Yes. His gaze flicked to the trees, as if expecting eyes to appear between the branches. It puts you and Junie at risk. Fear clawed up her spine. So what do we do? Callan's jaw clenched. I'll keep you safe. I swear it. You can't fight a pack alone, she argued. I'm not alone, he said. I have my wolves. And... His voice softened. I have you here. For now. Mina looked down, swallowing hard. A mate bond. A destiny she never asked for. A man who scared her, protected her, unsettled her heart in ways she wasn't ready to face. Callan, she whispered. I don't want this bond. He nodded slowly, though pain flickered behind his eyes. But, she added softly, I don't want to run from it either. Not yet. Surprise rippled across his face, quick, raw, vulnerable. Mina! But I need time, she said firmly. Time to breathe. Time to trust. Time to understand what's happening. His voice was barely audible. You'll have it. She finally met his eyes. No more hiding things from me. If we're connected, even a little, I deserve the truth. He bowed his head. You're right. The tension eased, not disappeared, but shifted into something quieter. Something that hummed beneath their ribs like a shared heartbeat. Mina stepped aside from the wall. We should get inside. For Junie's sake. Callan nodded, following her to the cabin. But before stepping inside, he paused. Mina, he murmured, no matter what Red said, the bond doesn't choose a woman who isn't strong enough for its weight. She froze. You survived heartbreak, Callan continued gently. You protected your daughter alone. Fate doesn't make mistakes. Mina's throat constricted. And for the first time since the word mate entered the air, she didn't feel fear. She felt possibility. But possibility was dangerous in a world of teeth and shadows. As Callan shut the cabin door behind them, the forest exhaled a cold, eerie wind. Somewhere in its depths, a second set of golden eyes opened. Watching. Waiting. And smiling with a predator's certainty. Chapter 8. The pull of something ancient night fell early in the forest. The sky bruised purple, the trees blackened into silhouettes, and fog crept across the ground like something alive. Mina stood at the window, watching mist curl around the pines in slow, deliberate spirals. Callan's pack had scattered into the woods hours earlier, but their presence still hummed in the air like static. Callan himself moved through the cabin with a restless, coiled energy, checking the firewood, reinforcing the broken doorframe, pacing like a caged storm. The mate bond hung between them, invisible but pulsing, a thread tugging at her ribs every time he moved too far away. She hated that she felt it. She hated that she missed him when he stepped into the next room. Mina. His voice pulled her from the window. She turned to see Callan watching her with a softness that didn't match the tension in his shoulders. You haven't eaten, he said gently. I'm not hungry. That was a lie. Her stomach twisted painfully. He crossed the room, stopping far enough not to crowd her. His restraint, the deliberate way he held himself back, made her chest ache strangely. "You're afraid," he said. "Of everything," she admitted. "Of what's happening. Of what you said earlier. Of what it means if it's true." His jaw tightened. "It is true." The bluntness hit her like a blow. "I didn't want this," she said quietly. "I know. And you didn't choose it either." "No," he whispered. "But I wouldn't undo it." Her breath caught. "Even knowing what I am. Human. Broken. Running from my own life." Callan stepped closer, just one slow step. "You are stronger than you realize, Mina. And nothing about you is something I'd undo." Heat rose in her cheeks. She looked away, flustered. He didn't push, didn't touch, didn't even breathe too close. But she could feel him, warm and steady, like the gravity of a planet she had accidentally wandered too near. Junie's soft laughter floated from the bedroom, where Rowan lay sprawled like a giant guardian. That sound alone kept Mina from dissolving. Callan followed her gaze. "She's adjusting well. She likes you, Wolf," Mina said with a shaky smile. "She likes you too," he murmured. Mina stiffened because she'd heard something underneath the words, some emotion he didn't mean to let slip. Callan noticed her reaction and quickly straightened. "There's something I need to explain. About the mate bond." Her stomach tightened. "Go on." "It's not just emotion," he said quietly. "Not just draw. It awakens instincts, senses. Sometimes, abilities." "Abilities?" Mina repeated. "For me?" Callan nodded. "Humans mated to shifters often develop heightened intuition. Sometimes dreams. Warnings." "Warnings of what?" "Danger." A chill rippled down her spine. "Like your brother?" He hesitated. "Yes. If the bond strengthens, you may feel him before any wolf can. That sounds terrifying." "It can be." He swallowed. "But also a shield." Mina rubbed her arms, trying to calm the rising nerves. "And how long before this strengthens?" "That depends," Callan said. "On proximity. On trust." A howl split the night. Callan went rigid. This howl was nothing like the others. It was low, murderous, laced with a hunger that had nothing to do with the moon. Mina's heart thrashed. "That wasn't one of your wolves." "No," Callan growled. "That was him. His brother." The forest held its breath. Callan crossed the cabin in 3 strides and threw on his coat, grabbing the lantern and a blade that gleamed with silver edges. "Stay inside," he said, voice already shifting toward Alpha Command. "No, Callan." He stopped, turning slowly. His eyes burned gold in the dim. "I won't let him near you. Not tonight. Not ever. But you can't fight your own brother alone." A humorless smile touched his mouth. "I've done it before." That revelation stole her breath. "Why is he after you?" Callan's expression darkened. "Because he wants what I have. The land. The pack." His gaze softened. "The bond." Mina's pulse stuttered. "He knows about me?" "Not yet," Callan said. "But he will. And when he does, he'll try to use you as a weapon." Fear spiked through her, sharp and choking. "Callan, please don't go alone." Something unfurled in his eyes then. Something rawer, deeper, dangerously tender. "I hear your fear," he murmured. "But I also hear your strength." He stepped closer, enough to feel his breath but not his skin. "I won't die tonight. Not when fate has finally put you in my path." A tremor passed through her, not fear, but something warmer, more terrifying. "Callan," she whispered, "I don't want anything to happen to you." Emotion flickered across his face, shock, relief, longing. "Mina." The door rattled violently. Not from wind. From something breathing on the other side. Callan's eyes snapped to the wood. Get back. Mina stumbled behind the table as guttural growls seeped through the cracks deep, resonant, layered with unnatural strength. Is that him? She whispered. Yes, Callan said. His hands flexed. Bones strained under his skin. He's closer than I expected. The doorknob twisted. Callan lunged, slammed his shoulder against the frame. Mina, hide! But Mina couldn't move. Her body froze because something else was rising inside her. A cold whisper. A warning. A pulse of dread that wasn't hers. The bond. She felt Callan's panic, his determination, his fear for her. And beneath it, she felt another presence outside dark, ancient, smiling. Not physically smiling, but in intention. In hunger. He's not alone, Mina said suddenly, breath shaking. Callan, your brother. He didn't come alone. Callan stiffened. How do you know? Her voice broke. I just feel it, like the shadows are moving. Callan stared at her, realization dawning like a storm. The bond is waking, he whispered. Before she could respond, the door cracked. Splintered. Callan snarled fully wolf in voice if not in body and shouted to her. Get Junie! Go to the back room and lock it! Don't open it for anyone but me, Dat Callan. His eyes locked with hers, blazing with command and something heartbreakingly fierce. Run. Mina grabbed Junie, clutching her daughter to her chest as the door burst open behind them, showering the cabin in shattered wood and moonlight. And standing in the doorway was a man with the same molten eyes as Callan but twisted by madness. His brother. And he was smiling.